Good afternoon and welcome to our last meeting of the month of August, and I'd like to welcome everybody in our audience today and those of us watching us on Electric City Television. Our invocation tonight will be given by Councilman Kyle Newton, in respect to the flag will be led by Councilman Don Chapman. Please rise.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and allow us to grow closer as a group and to nurture the bonds of our community. Fill us with your grace and continue to remind us all that everything we do here tonight is for the greater glory of you, the service of you, man. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of the August 13th meeting have been distributed. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Not hearing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
First by Mr. Newton.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lockridge. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of August 13th pass unanimously. We have one item of old business, and that item is request second reading of Ordinance 1813 to rezone 1805 through 1811 and 1806 through 1808 Edgewood Avenue from R5 single family residential to RM18 multifamily. Ms. McCollum.
Mayor and Council, this rezoning request is before you because of the need to bring the zoning into conformance for purposes of a proposed sale. So lending purposes is the main reason for the request. The property has been in use for multifamily use for a number of years. Planning Commission held a public hearing on this and had no one who spoke in opposition to the request. There were no additional calls or comments from the public about this rezoning, and you held first reading on August the 13th. The staff would recommend moving forward with the rezoning request as presented.
Thank you, ma'am. Any additional comments, questions?
I have one. This is in my ward. I have not received any kind of calls or any from anyone. I think it's one of those things that really needs to be changed back to multifamily. So I vote that we go ahead and accept this reading of the request up to change it to multifamily residential.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Lockridge and a second by Dr. Thompson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously on the final reading. We have two items of new business, and our first item of new business is request consideration of appointments to the Accommodations Tax, better known as the ATAX Advisory Committee. Ms. McCollum.
This is the time of year when we begin looking at or accepting applications for accommodations tax projects. We do have an advisory committee that meets and hears those requests on an annual basis. And if you remember, these are the dollars that this is the heads in beds, the hotel tax that is collected on accommodations, and those dollars are required to go back into the promotion of tourism. The ATAX committee currently has 4 positions of its membership to address, and if you remember, these are positions that are in large part very industry specific in terms of hospitality, lodging. You also have the ability to have 2 at-large positions on there. The positions that are up for renewal is a position in the hospitality lodging industry. Cindy Suttles with Paragon Hotels currently serves in that capacity, and she's agreed to continue to serve another term. You have an at-large position that is a replacement consideration, Reggie Hawthorne. He is one of the owners of Mix Masters Event Catering. He also works at Clemson University, so he does bring that event, tourism, hospitality industry background to the table. The other members who serve on this committee are Rebecca Purifoy. She's in the hospitality lodging industry. Vicki Culler represents the cultural sector, and Shelton Pace with Firehouse Subs, and John Doolittle with Doolittle's Restaurant. That makes up your whole complement of the committee. But again, there are Cindy Suttles, Summer Fredette, and Reggie Hawthorne that are being recommended for appointments or reappointments as indicated. Their terms of the new members would go through December the 31st of 2021.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, Mr. Stewart?
Just curious, are there any term limits, number of new, if people just want to continue, how to, maybe new people who come to the arena get an opportunity to serve on the board? That's question number one. And then the second question is, and why I'm going to vote for all these people to serve or make a recommendation that we approve these. Just curious with, like for instance, Mr. Hawthorne, who selected him, and does staff ever have input, council ever have input if there's somebody that we may know in this same industry that we would like to recommend, because I had no clue that there was an opening on this board.
This board only meets typically once a year when they review the applications. It is true that the way the vacancies do occur would be a lot of times like with Chris Glenn, if the particular industry or the sector that is being represented, if they no longer work for that particular industry or represent that sector, or if someone just doesn't want to serve anymore, then certainly those positions would become vacant. In large part, our desire to serve up some suggestions to you is because it is industry specific, and sometimes we may have come across somebody who is interested in serving and willing to serve, and we pass that along. We can certainly share this with you ahead of time. I think we do that in large part for boards and commissions like your Planning Commission or your Board of Appeals, so we can certainly do that in the same fashion.
Thank you. Is Mr. Hawthorne, so they're staggered terms, 2 staggered?
They are staggered.
And he's finishing Glenn?
They are.
Okay.
They are staggered terms. They, and to answer Mr. Stewart's question about is there a time limit on how many terms you can serve, I do not believe there is, but I'll verify that for you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Just clarification, is he filling an expired term, or is he serving a new term?
Chris Glenn's term has expired, and Reggie would be replacing Chris because Chris no longer represents who he represented.
With a new 4-year term?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All of these terms are 4-year appointments, the current terms that we're asking you to fill.
Thank you. Ms. Harper?
I appreciate all 4 of these, or 3 of these new ones and the 4 older members serving. And I'd like to recommend that we approve these.
First by Ms. Harper.
Second.
Second by Mr. County Convention and Visitors Bureau Board. Mr. McCollum.
You all will remember that the Convention and Visitors Bureau is completing its transition from being under the umbrella of Innovate Anderson to being a standalone entity. And as such, the part of creating that standalone entity was creating a new board that governed, or having a board that governed that entity. The new entity, the Anderson County Convention and Visitors Bureau, has established the bylaws for that entity, and they have appointed a board of directors. As part of making this transition, it was the city's and the county's desire to have two representatives from the city of Anderson serve on that board. Because this has been in the works for several months, the two people who had previously been willing to serve and were waiting until this was the timing of the transition, Bill Nickus from Sullivan's and Shelby Clardy from the Bleckley Inn, have continued to be interested in serving on this board and have expressed their willingness to represent the city from the hospitality and lodging industry sector. Therefore, we would recommend that those two people be appointed to the Anderson County Convention and Visitors Bureau as representatives of the city of Anderson.
Thank you. Again, any comments on the
I have a
appointees?
question.
Ms. Lockridge?
I may have read this somewhere before and just forgotten. I'm getting older, so I forget a lot. How many people are there on the board?
7 people on the board.
Total?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have a major part of the board.
Bobby Bevel also serves in an ex officio capacity. Glenn Brill serves on that. The other members who are on that board are Debbie O'Quinn from the Fairfield Inn and Suites, Mitesh Patel from Paragon Hotel, Charles Williams, who manages the T. Ed Garrison Arena, K.D. Mosini, representing the Anderson Restaurant Group, Les McCall, who represents the Bart Garrison Ag Museum, and also with that board you would have Rusty Burns and Marty Walker.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see this. And being on any board is time consuming, but it's also thankless. But I'd like to nominate these folks for this board.
Second.
First by Mr. Lockridge, second by Mr. John Roberts. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Have administrative briefing, Ms. McCall.
On our calendar, Monday, September the 3rd, our offices will be closed for Labor Day. Oh, I do need to back up. Because it is Labor Day weekend, then Sunday, September the 2nd is Celebrate Anderson at the Sports and Entertainment Center. And they look like they have a real good lineup. The time of that event is starting at 5:30 and goes till 10 o'clock. So they have music, food, entertainment. We also have the Anderson County Municipal Association meeting coming up, which is going to be in Pendleton. So please let Brandy know of your plans to attend. And Sounds in the Park will be Carolina Wren Park on September the 11th. And that gets us started for the month of September.
Thank you. We have a couple items in the executive session. Mr. McCall.
Yes, sir, we do. We have, the first item is discussion of negotiations relative to the proposed contractual agreements with Anderson University. The second item is discussion of legal advice regarding Winn versus Scott and City of Anderson. We do not expect any action to be taken. This is for information and legal advice and contractual matters.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to go to executive session. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stay in executive session. I'm sorry.
I think it was.
I would entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
First by Ms. Lockridge,
Second.
second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand in executive session. In executive session, we heard management and legal discussion on negotiations contractual negotiations with Anderson University, and also legal advice in regards to the case Winn versus Scott in the city of Anderson. There will be no action taken on either one of these items that we had in executive session. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
First by Mr. Newton, second by Mr. Chapman. All those in favor, I'm sorry.
Close enough.
Close.
Both wearing tan.
Jeff Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? We stand adjourned.